Hey everybody, John Skiba here from the Arizona Consumer Law Group. I'm also founder of the Consumer Warrior Project that provides resources to people who are facing serious debt problems. You can learn more about that by going over to the website, consumerwarrior.com. On today's video, I wanted to talk about something that I find a little bit humorous, a little bit disappointing, and that is going through the comments that I receive over on my YouTube channel to the different videos that I put up about dealing with debt problems. And while most things are positive, periodically I get comments that people really kind of throw their opinion as far as what they think of people who are did a while back about what you can do if debt collectors are getting over aggressive as far as the way that they're dealing with you on the phone. And this one commenter said that he has another, in his comment, he said he's got another tip on how to avoid aggressive debt collectors. Pay your debts and stop spending what you never effing earned, is his comment. And while that comment is not helpful in any way whatsoever, and I'm sure this person was very proud and somewhat smug that they had this great insight to just pay your bills and then you don't have to deal with debt collectors. I wanted to go over why I think that comment is not only stupid and idiotic, but why it doesn't really see the big picture of things when it comes to debt collection. And to do this, how I wanted to frame it is really to show you and tell you some of the experiences that I've had over the last 14 years of representing consumers and families in serious debt problems through things like bankruptcy, debt collection lawsuits. Now, when we look at bankruptcy specifically, we can look at that because there's a lot of statistics and studies that have been done on people who have had to file for bankruptcy. Many people have this stereotype or this thought in mind of the person who's filing for bankruptcy is just this person who's out on, just irresponsible, just on spending sprees with credit cards and going on vacations and buying, things that they don't need to buy. And then they can't pay their bills. And so, hey, get out of jail free card. Let's just file for bankruptcy and you won't owe anything going forward. And then you can start the whole process again later when you get some new credit cards. I can tell you, as someone who meets with probably 3 to 6 families per day, every business day of the week, and talks about these types of things, that almost never happens. I can probably count on my, one hand how many times I've met with people who've actually taken that approach to life and are that irresponsible. It's actually much more serious things that lead people to things like bankruptcy. And I wanted to go over really what I see as some of the top reasons and also some of the reasons that have been pointed out in various studies. Now, the number one thing that we see as to why people file for bankruptcy often has to do with medical debt, that there's some kind of large medical issue that they're dealing with, and it's resulted in just overwhelming expenses. And this is backed up by a recent Harvard study that said that medical expenses played a role in 62% of bankruptcies. And something that's also interesting is of those 62% of people that are going through bankruptcy because of the medical debt, 78% of them had health insurance. So just because you have health insurance doesn't mean that you're going to be immune from having just these overwhelming debt coming from medical expenses. So the number one reason that I see, and that the studies have shown out, that people file for bankruptcy is because of an unexpected illness and the medical expenses associated with that. The second one is job loss, and I'm going to throw into this business owners, people who own their own business and the business has failed for some reason, or someone has a job and they lose it, that they have unemployment. This is a big one as far as, most people don't have a lot in savings. You see the studies that most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and so an unexpected job loss or the failure of a business for those small business owners often can lead to a bankruptcy just because there's overwhelming debt. The third one that I see that's a big one is divorce. When couples go through divorce, there's a division of debts and assets. It almost inevitably leads to bankruptcy by at least one of the spouses. And what I have seen is kind of a domino effect. If one spouse files, the other one typically ends up filing anyway. I won't go into whether you should file before or after the divorce if you're going to file for bankruptcy in connection with a divorce. Another topic for another day, but I can tell you that divorce often leads to bankruptcy as well. I will throw in there, just poor use of credit, poor judgment as far as spending habits of people. But like I said, this is way down on the list, and it's probably mixed in with a bunch of these other things. There's some medical expenses or there's a job loss, and because of some poor decisions earlier on, it makes it more difficult to be able to kind of weather that storm. But I would dare say that all of us have made some poor financial decisions. Even my man here that left a comment, saying just to pay your bills and then you don't have to worry about all these debt issues. That's true, but it's a little more complicated than that. And the reasons that people file for bankruptcy are a lot more complicated than that. So that's my take on the overall as far as why people end up in this situation. And one of the things that I think people should be grateful for is that there are bankruptcy laws. We kind of take that for granted, that there are these statutes, this kind of do-over, this get-out-of-jail-free card, if you will, that allow you to start over and get that, the fresh start that people talk about with bankruptcy. If we didn't have those laws, who would be willing to start a business? What would happen if these medical expenses, if they were just piled on a person, they could never escape that. They're dealing with something for the rest of their lives. You can just see that without the ability to file bankruptcy, how much more difficult in general it would be and how much less risk adverse people would be as far as being willing to open businesses and things like that. So the laws serve a purpose. They absolutely help people. It's not for every situation. I always say that. It's something where a bankruptcy attorney is to sit down with you and go over your situation and let you know if it's something that's actually going to benefit you in the long run. So that's going to do it for today's video. Appreciate you watching. If you want to learn more about the debt collection process and things that you can do in dealing with overwhelming debt and serious legal problems, head on over to consumerwarrior.com. You can also head over to my YouTube channel and read more of the comments like the ones that I talked about today as far as what people's thoughts are and some of the things that they've done that have helped them with their debt problems. So again, head over to consumerwarrior.com. You can find links to these videos, our podcasts, articles, and a bunch more different resources that can help you. Thanks for watching today.